Hello and welcome to AM Prime here on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Glad to be back out after what we can consider was a long weekend here at WESN following the events of North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival 2023. But as we get into our final edition of AM Prime for the month of May 2023, I'm pleased to welcome my first guest this morning via Zoom. He is the Shadow Minister for Finance, Trade, Agriculture and Tourism, Opposition Senator Damian Lyda, to speak about the government's VAT refunds to manufacturers. Good morning, Senator Lyda.
Good morning, Keaton, and good morning to all your viewers. Good, very early morning to you all.
Well, thank you very much for joining me. 7.8 billion and counting, and the Minister of Finance has indicated Cabinet's decision to issue VAT bonds to the sum of $3 billion, the aggregate sum of $3 billion, which will eventually amount to $5 billion for 2023. This is inclusive also of cash refunds. Now, this is the government's decision. This is their solution. As Shadow Minister of Finance, what was your immediate reaction?
Well, Keaton, obviously, this whopping amount of $7.8 billion was announced to us when the minister was put on question by Independent Senator Dino Ryan. I sat there in the Senate. I was in disbelief. We've been trying to find out from the government for months before that, what was the amount that VAT refunds had accumulated to. And, it took an independent senator to basically smoke the minister out. And we found out as of the end of March 2023, it stood at 7.8 billion. And of course, it doesn't stop there because, we are almost at June. So one can assume that we've crossed $8 billion by now. So that was firstly a big shocker for us. And then, of course, we listened attentively to hear what would the solution be, because the opposition, along with the various chambers of commerce, Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association, have been looking for a solution, a solution that is sustainable to ensure that the manufacturers pay their VAT refunds on a timely basis consistently, and we don't keep, and the government doesn't keep allowing a hole to be dug deeper and deeper, and then attempt to bail it out via bonds and some cash. So we listened on, and we heard the minister speak about the $3 billion in bonds. And he also stated on the Hansard that the government would be giving anywhere between $1 or $2 billion. So there's actually no guarantee or firm commitment of exactly how much. The Minister of Finance simply indicated that it would be between $1 and $2 billion. So we look on and wait to see if that actually happens. Historically, we have heard this government, make promises like that, and in the end, they fall short on those promises. So at this stage, all we can say is that, we tell the manufacturers, take whatever you can get right now. So if you're going to get the $3 billion in bonds, and you're going to get part of that, take it while you can get it. And we wait to see if this government actually does follow through and give $2 billion. But that does not solve the problem. That is simply a stopgap measure to fix a problem that's become a runaway train, Keaton. Mm-hmm. We've heard no real solution coming from the Minister of Finance, other than that we see that the Revenue Authority will be coming on soon, and that the Revenue Authority will be that sort of beacon of light that will help to capture all of that lost tax or that lost VAT that delinquent companies are trying to escape from paying. But again, Keaton, not to hog the show, but to say that or to literally punish manufacturers who have been paying their VAT religiously at the port in advance, when clearing goods, when clearing raw materials, to say that you are depending on the revenue authority to collect delinquent tax or to go after delinquent taxpayers. That is being completely disingenuous and unfair to manufacturers. One has nothing to do with the other.
Well, Senator,
if the government does a better job in collecting VAT and taxes, etc., from people who are evading it, then good for them. But this has nothing to do with manufacturers who pay their VAT upfront to the government. When the goods arrive at the port, they pay customs and excise, their VAT, they clear their goods, they manufacture their products. What they sell on the domestic market, they will recover the VAT at that point. And what they export, this is where they are not able to charge VAT to export markets. This is where they are attempting to claim their VAT back, VAT that they have paid in advance.
Well, Senator,
and why is the government not paying it?
One of the solutions also spoken of by the Minister of Finance is the removal of VAT completely and the re-implementation of a sales tax where there would be no refund involved. Do you think that there has been a consideration actually for the entire tax policy design? Because we're speaking about the Revenue Authority, but do you think that there has been consideration for the entire tax policy design?
No, listen. We hear all sorts of, I don't want to use, I hate to use the word mama guy, but we hear so much mama guy at least over the last 3 years that I've been in the Senate. I have heard different promises, different solutions being proposed, and we see nothing except a government that continues to tax businesses, continues to increase taxes to businesses. We're seeing very soon we'll see the implementation of property tax. So this is a government that is trying to tax themselves out of an economy that they themselves have collapsed. And you know what was said by once an English prime minister, trying to tax yourself out of a recession is like standing in a bucket and attempting to raise yourself. But what I would like to know is that why did the minister not listen to members of the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturing Association, the various chambers of commerce? They have come with possible solutions. There are a few solutions being thrown about. One is, of course, removing VAT from the consolidated fund, because when they collect VAT, it goes into the consolidated fund, and it's muddled with the monies used for paying recurring expenditure, and for many of the vanity projects that this government has been famous for spending billions of dollars on. So removing it from the consolidated fund and putting it in its own separate fund so that it can be properly managed, so that the VAT funds are there to be repaid to the manufacturers. Another solution thrown about was, for properly accredited manufacturers, removing VAT at the port, at the point of port, at the port where the VAT is paid, removing it from that point for raw materials to properly accredited manufacturers, so that when they manufacture locally, what is sold on the local market the VAT would be collected for that, and the manufacturers will be able to pay that VAT at that point. And anything that is exported, there will be no need for a VAT refund at that stage. And of course, one of the third solutions was a net off. So manufacturers being able to net off, VAT at the port based on products that have been exported. So the ability to net it off at the port. So those are a few solutions that were presented by the various chambers of commerce and the TTMA. But of course, the government has not entertained any of that, and we don't hold up any hope that this would happen. You see, Keelan, it is my opinion, and it's the opinion of many of us in the opposition, that the government can solve it if they want to solve it. The issue is this: the economy is in a mess. Revenues that the government had anticipated to collect, or had told the population they would collect this financial year, it is clear that this will not happen anymore. That the oil price, gas price, everything is down. So they expect a shortfall on revenues. they have come to the Parliament and asked for an additional $3 billion to be spent, almost $4 billion to be spent in this financial year. So there's an expectation that at minimum we are going to have a over $6.5 billion deficit this year, coming off of an expected $1 billion that the minister indicated in the budget for this year. So the government is looking for revenue. The government is looking for monies. And we see the government using these VAT refunds almost as an interest-free loan to the government for their expenditure.
Mm-hmm. What about,
otherwise, why not pay the manufacturers? Where is the money?
You mentioned
it was paid up front.
You mentioned roughly 3 solutions, a few put forward by the Manufacturers Association. What about, as previously mentioned, the proposal of sales tax? I mean, the Minister of Finance said the jury is still out on that, but it would solve the issue of refunds. Is this perhaps another solution to consider?
Well, let's wait to see how the minister intends to, roll this out. I mean, we don't have all the details of it. The minister, as usual, keeps everything very veiled in secrecy. So I guess when, at some point in time, he may present it if he does, and we'll comment on it at that point. But I don't want to comment it at this stage because, he's never very clear on solutions. He just proposes things. And we have to wait to see how it rolls out. So I don't want to comment on that until I see it happen. But I don't hold out hope that it won't happen. So,
what about opposition and in your position as Shadow Minister of Finance? What do you propose as solutions to actually ensuring that this does not happen again?
Well, I completely support the solutions that were proposed by the TTMA and the various chambers of commerce. I mean, these are entities, they're members of these organizations that belong to very well-respected entities that have experience in the world of business. And these are very simple solutions that, a government that has the will and to solve this problem, has the foresight to solve this problem, can use these solutions. I mean, look, if you have accredited manufacturers who are able to bring their raw materials in without paying VAT at the port, this is a solution this is a solution with more than one benefit. It's not only about ensuring that they don't have to wait for VAT refunds, but by not having to pay this VAT money up front at this stage, this allows for manufacturers to have this excess liquidity that they so desperately need at this current time, during these challenging times. Remember, when you talk about $7.8 billion, basically being pulled out of liquidity. This is $7.8 billion being pulled out of liquidity, Keaton. This is $7.8 billion that could be used to expand manufacturing plants, to purchase more raw materials, to increase production, even to save some of companies from going under and keeping employment. I mean, we've seen under this government over 65,000 jobs lost, according to the CSO, during the last 8 years of this government in office. And a lot of that has to do with companies that are going out of business. So that there in itself is a solution to assist manufacturers with their liquidity constraints. And many of these manufacturers have to now go to financial institutions in order to borrow monies to be able to fund the liquidity shortfall. And of course, this increases the cost of operations and cost of production and puts manufacturers in Trinidad and Tobago in a more uncompetitive situation compared to those in the rest of the world. So I completely endorse, removing VAT at the port for accredited manufacturers. And if you do that as well, and you encourage manufacturers, many of the small manufacturers, to become accredited manufacturers, that means that you may be able to pull some of these small entities who may be evading taxes at this point in time, and you broaden your tax net as well, instead of taxing the same pool of manufacturers and businesses.
So who should be responsible for this accreditation process then?
So, beg your pardon?
Who should be responsible for this accreditation process that you speak of?
Well, I mean, you have the Ministry of Trade, who would support a process like that. The Ministry of Finance, the Revenue Authority. I mean, all of these entities would be involved in the accreditation or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And furthermore, do you think that VAT is simply not working because too many smart businessmen and women know how to actually evade the system?
Know how to evade the system?
Mm.
Well, I mean, no. I mean, I think the VAT system is a system that works. I mean, we see it all throughout the region. I see it in Antigua, St. Lucia. It's under different names. But no, I mean, the VAT system, it works fine. There's nothing wrong with a value-added tax. It does contribute towards the economy and the building of the economy, etc. The government just needs to obviously become a lot tighter on tax collection. I mean, I am totally in support of collecting taxes from the business community to help, bolster the economy. But at the end of the day, I am against a government that takes advantage in taxing the businesses or increasing taxes at this stage on property tax, for example, and holding back VAT refunds. That is what I'm against.
So then, is it that you would be so...
Businesses have, businesses have every right to pay their taxes to the state. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same point in time, if you're expecting businesses to pay their taxes to the state religiously, right? And if you are going to penalize businesses for paying VAT late or paying their taxes late, then the government, by extension, should not, be capable of holding back VAT refunds and not be penalized. Because I don't know if you're aware, Keaton, that if you are a businessman and you pay your taxes late, there's a penalty, there is an interest charged on it, and the government is going to collect their penalties and interest. But if the government does not pay their taxes by law, VAT refunds, by law, after 6 months, the government is supposed to pay 1% interest on VAT refunds for every single month after 6 months. And I put it to you that the government currently probably has not paid 1 cent in interest, let alone paying back VAT. So I don't think there's an issue collecting VAT. I think there's an issue with this particular government. I put it to you. Let me just say for the record, it is Minister Imbert himself who stated that when they came into office, they met the VAT refunds at about $4 billion was the VAT refunds owing at the time. Now remember, every single day, VAT refunds accumulate every day. So it's understandable that there'll be a certain amount of VAT owing, at any one given time. But we've seen that under this government administration, it go from $4 billion all the way to now 7.8, in fact, over 8 billion by now. So it's almost doubled.
But then, Senator, that is the case. Part of the blame lies on the administration between 2010 and 2015, if that be the case. If according to Minister Imbert, they inherited $5 billion in VAT refunds that were not paid off. And currently it's at about 7.8 billion, about 8 billion at this point.
But it's over 8 billion now, yes.
Yes. Part of the problem also was the administration previously and their failure to pay back VAT refunds.
No, well, as I indicated to you, there are always going to be VAT refunds owing at any point in time, right? Because remember, every single day goods are coming into the country. Every single day goods are being exported from the country. So there are always going to be VAT refunds owing, right? At any point in time, you stop at any time. Even if you are paying it back religiously, there will always be VAT refunds owing to manufacturers. And the point is that, look, I'm not saying that there was a perfect world between 2010 and 2015. In fact, our political leader has always said that, we work towards improving a situation. And that is why between 2010 and 2015, we created more jobs. the economy was thriving and growing. And all you could do is continue to work closer with entities like the TTMA, with the chambers of commerce, listen to their advice, and to work along with them. But to go backwards and to have a situation to get worse is an incrimination on the government currently. So you are always going to have VAT refunds owing at any point in time.
So is it that you would
between
also...
2010 and 2015, there was a consistent repayment of VAT refunds on an annual basis. We see a situation now where people are sitting down waiting years to get their VAT refunds back.
Well, Senator Leiter, you said that you don't have an issue with the government doing their part in collecting taxes. In fact, you believe that there needs to be greater stringent measures as it relates to that. You have an issue with the government taking advantage. But is it that you would be supportive of a revenue authority? Because according to the Minister of Finance, though he has not explained it entirely, he has suggested that a revenue authority is also going to be the solution to ensure that these gaps are actually reduced. So would you be supportive of a revenue authority?
Would I be what, sorry?
Supportive of a revenue authority.
The issue with us was not that we didn't support the revenue authority. The issue with us is that we did not support the overreaching powers of the executive arm of the state in the incarnation of this revenue authority that the Minister of Finance is proposing to the population, right? When that was our issue was the fact that the Minister of Finance, through his cabinet, has the power to appoint the board for this revenue authority. This executive reach and strength and influence into the revenue authority is what we had an issue with. And let me tell you something, Keaton, that has been the problem we have had in almost every bit of legislation that the government has brought to us, at least for the 3 years that I have been in the Senate. Every time the government has brought legislation, we see this continued situation of the executive arm of the state having this tremendous influence over the appointment of the board, over the appointment of regulators, over the, and that is what we have a serious issue with this government, is the fact that they have, these powers that are able to influence who sits on a board, who appoints a CEO, who appoints the head of an agency. That is what we have the issue with. Mm-hmm. That is our problem.
Well, Senator Leiter, we're out of time, and I want to thank you, but I put it to you that that is not a new problem. I agree that is something that needs to be resolved. But if you could name for me an administration that did not have that influence of appointing members to a board or appointing CEOs, then honestly, that'll be an incredible answer. I look forward to that because, again, previous administrations prior to 2015 were also very much guilty of doing the same. So isn't it rather a bit hypocritical that that is the issue that the opposition currently has?
No, there's a difference, Keita, between appointing members of boards to state-owned companies versus appointing members of boards or appointing heads to independent institutions. This is the issue we are seeing here now. We have seen the governments trampling on independent institutions that infringe on the rights of citizens in this country. That is the issue. The former administration between 2010 and 2015 understood the separation of powers between the executive arm of the state and the other two arms of the state. So that is the issue we are having. We are seeing a government that is trampling over into independent institutions. Mm-hmm. When we see what has happened with the Police Service Commission and the collapse of the Police Service Commission, mm-hmm. when we see what is happening with the EBC, and now, of course, my humble opinion, what we saw happening with the appointment of a president, mm-hmm. seeing a politician sit in the seat, the highest office in the land. Mm-hmm. But we won't get into that. That's a whole long story again. That's been wrung out, Keita. But that is the problem. Yes, we've always had government appointing board members in state-owned companies. But when you get to these independent institutions, and when you get to the institution such as the Revenue Authority, where you are now coming into people's lives to understand people's financial situations, their private information. That is where we have an issue.
Well, I think we've just opened an entirely new topic of discussion, but we're going to have to end it there for now, Senator Leiter. Thank you very much for your time this morning and for sharing your thoughts and opinions with us.
Thank you very much, Keaton.
Thank you for the time. All the very best.
Take care.
That's Opposition Senator Damian Leiter, the Shadow Minister for Finance, Trade, Agriculture and Tourism. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a break here on AM Prime. When we return, we get into some more discussions this morning. Stay tuned to the program.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order or visit us in-store at Forces flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Welcome back to AM Prime, and thank you for joining me. I'm now joined by the President of the Trinidad Postal Workers Union, Mr. Sheldon Trim. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, Chief. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you doing?
I cool.
Well, that's actually good considering all the news regarding the safety of postal officers trying to conduct their duties on a daily basis. Most recently, an internal memo was leaked. We don't have to get too much into that because we're very much aware of it. But let me speak to you first on the instances of threats, of violence or attacks against postal workers here in Trinidad. Do you have any statistics or figures you can share with us, any instances of postal workers being attacked?
Okay, well, at the present point, I don't have the exact figures. Mm-hmm. But however, postal workers being endangered in the public spaces is nothing new. In fact, it has been happening from since time immemorial because we are a part of the community, and as the community experiences upsurge in violence or upsurge in any particular type of criminal activity, postal workers are also so affected because we are literally a part of the community as a part of our duty.
Mm-hmm. Now, have there been also, because you mentioned this upsurge in violence, have there been threats to postal workers that they cannot actually enter or operate within certain areas, that they're not welcome there?
Okay, well, some areas, due to the nature of the area, would require some what we would consider to be special attention. So then, therefore, to ensure that number one, the safety of our workers, two, that we maintain our universal service obligation, that we would have, the management in conjunction with the union would have taken particular strategies to ensure that as best of our ability, that we maintain an effective service to the community.
In maintaining that effective service to the community, you have to balance the health and safety of postal officers, whilst also ensuring, as you just mentioned, that there is quality service. But have you had to suspend delivery services to certain areas?
Well, in some areas where we may have had particular challenges from time to time, that would have also been an option.
Now, you also mentioned some measures that you've had to implement and practice. What are those measures that are practiced on a daily basis in terms of the safety of postal workers?
Okay, well, in the first context, officers are constantly advised to ensure that they are aware of their surroundings. Also, inside of that, officers normally tend to have a very good relationship with our customers. So then, therefore, even that's that part of our safety net, whereby as our officers are interacting with the community, that also engender to their particular safety. Now, there's also due for and I must say security reasons, there are certain things that I cannot discuss on air because again, it is for the safety of our officers.
Okay, that's understood. Has there been a comprehensive risk assessment with TT Post management, with the union and the Trans-Tobago Police Service?
Well, I cannot speak in conjunction with all three parties, but however, I do know that in relation with the TT Post management and the union, we normally have health and safety meetings, and in those meetings we also do some risk assessments. Also, and also outside of that, if there are cases that that tend to be a bit more, let me say, challenging, in conjunction with the union, the security department again, certain strategies will be put in place.
Now, is it that TT Post management has completely helped us in this situation, that it's fully up to the Trans-Tobago Police Service to deal with what postal workers are facing?
Well, if it's one thing I can say about the management as relation to the security of our officers, the management are they're normally very aware of what is happening and normally give advising to the officers as how they should proceed in any particular situation. Because remember, this is not a situation that you can use a brush and one size fit all. So then, therefore, you need to look at each situation individually and make your assessment, and then come out of that. You begin to implement.
So are you satisfied with the response by areas of management, the Minister, the Line Minister Marvin Gonzalez, the Trans-Tobago Police Service, TT Post Management? Are you satisfied with that response and even the communication from management to the union?
Well, like everything, things can always be improved. But however, what I must say is that when it comes to security issues, those issues are normally fast-tracked. So then, therefore, we are not going to have a very large problem with communication in that particular issue, because we would have seen in some areas that whereby there were problems, the management would have responded promptly in ensuring the officer's security.
Now, moving forward, are TT Post workers actually afraid to do their jobs? This morning, as we speak, our TT Post workers are actually very anxious of doing their jobs in delivering mail.
Number one, that goes without saying, because even during the COVID pandemic, when officers were deemed to be how I say important or necessary, postal workers were one of those officers, just like fire officers, nurses, police officers. So we also worked throughout the COVID situation. So then, and inside of that, we even saw that our employees, even though it was a challenging time, our employees they did step up to the plate and they did bat well.
But the challenges coming out of COVID-19, what were some of those challenges? Because I know you mentioned that it was deemed as an essential service. Is it that the postal union feels as though their workers were not treated as though they were essential?
Well, I would say this. We were deemed essential, but however, in particular aspects, we were not treated essential. Because, like, for instance, because as with the nurses, as with the police officers, some sort of financial acknowledgement of their service was given to them, but nothing in that regard was given to postal workers. And even though we were literally in the thick of it, because understanding at that particular point in time there was a virus, we didn't have too much information, and even with a lack of information, we still had to perform our duties to the best of our abilities.
Mm-hmm. But why? I mean, you yourself have mentioned that this is you're striving to do your service with quality, effectively, efficiently. If there has been this entire stance on ensuring that you get the work done in a timely manner, and ensure that you do it to the best of your ability, why is a financial, I suppose, remuneration necessary, some gratitude necessary, if you're just simply doing your job?
Well, number one, this is how I simply look at it. If one is deemed and considered to be special, and one would have served efficiently and effectively, then one should be rewarded. Because at the end of the day, when we look, okay, let's look at the issue with the police officers who would have had to operate, and mind you, sad to say, in the course of their duties, some officers would have contracted COVID and passed away, and also similarly to postmen inside the pandemic situation would have also contracted COVID and passed away, because these people would have put their lives literally on the line, you know, and then therefore to say you treat some, let's say, probably more equal than others, that is that can be a bit disheartening, because like I said, our workers, we literally work in every community that exists in Trinidad and Tobago. And then therefore, just like everybody else who have been appreciated, it would have been nice if we too were also appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Well, considering everything that we've spoken of this morning with regards to the safety of postal mail officers, I mean, you just mentioned COVID-19 as well, but are there any plans to stop the delivery service because of this increased threat of violence towards postal officers, given the upsurge in crime?
Like I said, every situation is looked at on a case-by-case scenario, and then coming out of that, decisions will be made. So to come and say that we are looking to suspend services and do what say that would be very foolhardy and irresponsible of me to come and say that. However, what I would say is that I remember years ago when I set up on my television what Sesame Street, and what Sesame Street taught me that the postman is a person in the neighborhood, and then therefore I trust that the listening public will give the postman that literal respect, and also to be a part of our security blanket in a particular way. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Shellentrim, I want to thank you for joining me this morning here at AM Prime to share with us this update. We'll have to keep in touch to get any further updates as to what's taking place. But at this point in time, we're going to have to pause, and thank you for your time, and thank you for your service.
And I must say, it was a pleasure sitting and having this discussion, because I believe these type of discussions, we need to have them much more frequently, because sometimes you have people who are working out there, and only when something comes, you will remember that, hey, these people are functioning out there. So I must say, I thank you for the opportunity, and I trust that as we move forward, we will build a very strong and fruitful relationship.
Certainly, sir. Always a pleasure, and again, we will be in contact. So thank you very much. Keep well. All the best.
No problem.
That was Mr. Shellentrim, the president of the Trans-Tobago Postal Workers Union, speaking to us this morning at AM Prime of the efforts to protect the lives of postal officers. And as he just mentioned, that relationship between officers and the community, greater respect is needed. And though postal workers are obviously fearful of doing their daily activities, at the same time, they're doing their absolute best to ensure that a quality service is there effectively and efficiently. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break here on AM Prime. When we return, we'll get into some regional updates, starting with the Republic of Ghana and an update on the Madia tragedy and that claimed the lives of 17 school children last week. We'll be right back after this.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Tickets are at dbesttoys.com. Shop for the best brands you love at the best prices. Like VTech, Leapfrog, Fisher-Price, Play-Doh, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Cocomelon, LOL, Baby Alive, Crayola. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship McBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 32DBEST to order. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Welcome back to AM Prime, and thank you for staying with us this morning. We now get into some regional updates. We start with Guyana. Vice President Dr. Barra Jagdeo spoke publicly for the first time since Sunday's loss, that's last Sunday's loss of lives in Madia, promising all answers in the future. He explained that commitments on a special inquiry will have to come from President Dr. Irfan Ali. Meanwhile, 1 week after the horrific fire at the female dormitory of the Madia Secondary School that claimed the lives of 19 children, I mentioned 17 previously, I do apologize for that, and claimed the lives of 19 children and injured many more. The remaining 18 bodies are being laid to rest. The funerals will start on Tuesday and conclude on Thursday. Let's take a look at this report from Guyana.
Vice President Dr. Barra Jagdeo Thursday described the fire that destroyed a student dorm and killed 19 children in Madia as one of the worst tragedies in Guyana's history and one that has turned a time of independence celebration into an atmosphere of national mourning. Asked by the newsroom whether there will be a special inquiry, Jagdeo said that is a decision for the President, Dr. Irfan Ali, to make, but committed to giving Guyanese all the answers they want.
No. As I said before, the matter has been discussed and the President will speak on this matter at the appropriate time, but people will we're committed that all the answers. So far, we know what took place. We know what took place, but much more needs to be done. and people will have the answers. We're committed to ensuring that that happens.
The Vice President opened his press conference with expressions of condolences and also condemned attempts to politicize the incident and cast blame. He told members of the media that he has personally seen the politicization of the national tragedy in veiled forms and other times in a flagrant manner. He noted that Norton was in the township on Wednesday during a national flower laying ceremony and chose not to attend. He said, "There may not have been a formal invitation to Norton, but that should not have kept him away since other people did not receive same."
At this period when people are grieving, they don't go and they roll out a red carpet and give you a formal invitation and have you seated. You show up. If you really are concerned about people, you just show up. But from what I gather, he chose to go to his party office and wait there.
Jack Dio was sure that the country will overcome this tragedy regardless.
This week, the bodies of the remaining 18 children who perished in a horrific fire at the female dormitory of the Madhya Secondary School will be laid to rest in their home communities across Region 8. Already, 16-year-old Sabrina John from Carisparu was laid to rest. Her cousins Bibi Rita Fiona Jeffrey, Belnisa Evans and Lorene Evans will be laid to rest in Carisparu on Tuesday. The following days, the girls from Chenapau will be laid to rest. They are Mary and Martha Danrad, Omifia Edwin and Yolanda Carter. Finally, on Thursday, 10 girls and the 5-year-old boy Adonijah Jerome will be laid to rest in Maikobi. The girls are Natalie Bellamine, Andrea Roberts, Loretta Williams, Nicolene Robinson, Sherlyn Bellamine, Lisa Robert, Cleoma Simon, Trisille Thomas, Delicia Edwards, and Ariana Edwards. These funerals come days after DNA test results positively identifying these bodies returned to Guyana from New York. The bodies are being flown into the communities from Georgetown. On Sunday night, President Dr. Irfan Ali and several government officials met with affected families at State House, the President's official residence in Georgetown. After meeting with the families individually, the President promised further support, including housing and educational opportunities.
Regardless of the criteria for the secondary school, we're going to build special facilities in these villages. We're going to send teachers to work with the children who are home, so we wouldn't have any learning losses. Then we're working now on bringing in specialist counselors to work with our local counselors with the entire school at Madhya to ensure that all the children at Madhya are given some support now.
Aside from the children who perished, several others have been receiving medical care. One 13-year-old girl was medevaced to New York. In this update by Spectrum News NY1, officials from Northwell Health Burn Center and Staten Island University Hospital said they are providing resources on the ground and in Guyana, as well as a call line for Guyanese in New York.
The patient's condition is critical but stable. The mom I met with this morning is in good spirits, a little overwhelmed and still, I think, in shock, as any parent would be.
A total of 19 children, 18 girls and 1 boy died in a devastating fire which started after 23 hours on May 21. The fire continued for some 3 hours before it was controlled. Another 29 girls were injured in the fire. The school housed girls from Madhya, Campbelltown, Maikobi, El Paso, and several other villages in the North Pacaramas in Region 8.
Just give a further update. This morning, a 15-year-old student accused of deliberately setting a fire in a girls' dormitory in Guyana, which killed these 18 schoolmates and a 5-year-old boy. She was charged on Monday as an adult with 19 counts of murder. The defendant appeared virtually at a hearing in a court in the south capital of Georgetown, where she was ordered to be held in custody pending further court proceedings. Investigators accused the girl of igniting the blaze at the Madhya Secondary School in anger with the administrator over the confiscation of her cell phone. The government boarding school serves remote indigenous villages in the country's southwest. She will make a second court appearance on July 5th. So the 15-year-old accused has been charged with 19 counts of murder as an adult. The second appearing on July 5th. Moving forward now to Jamaica. The Bank of Jamaica says it is keeping a keen eye on the discussions taking place about the need to increase the U.S. debt ceiling. Bank of Jamaica Governor Richard Biles said, if a decision is not reached soon, the world could face even tighter economic conditions, noting that most of Jamaica's foreign reserves are held in U.S. dollars. Let's take a look at this report.
The Bank of Jamaica BOJ says it's keeping a keen eye on the discussions taking place about the need to increase the U.S. debt ceiling. BOJ Governor Richard Biles says if a decision is not reached soon, the world could face even tighter economic conditions.
We certainly hope it comes to a soft landing during the course of this week, because it is not good for anyone throughout the world to have the U.S. be in a situation where they may default on payments or be unable to make payments. Most of our reserves are held in U.S. dollars, as is the case for most countries in the world. And so we all have that vested interest to see that, or to hope that that gets resolved very quickly.
The U.S. government has been trying to reach a decision to lift the self-imposed $31.4 trillion U.S. dollar debt ceiling. Reuters reported today that it appears Democratic and Republican negotiators got more time to reach a deal to raise the ceiling, as Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said the government is likely to run out of money to pay its bills on June 5. That's 4 days later than previously predicted. Missing a payment in the U.S. could trigger a Wall Street meltdown of historic proportions.
Well, we're all keeping a keen eye on what's taking place in the U.S. as it regards to the debt ceiling. Moving across to St. Kitts and Nevis now. Nevis Island administration now has the ability to sue and to be sued in its capacity as an organ of the Crown after two key pieces of legislation were passed in Parliament. The Nevis Island Administration Civil Proceedings Bill of 2023 and the Crown Proceedings Amendment Bill 2023 were passed with the support of 12 of the 15 members of the Parliament. Prior to the vote, Attorney General and Minister of Justice and Legal Affairs Garth Wilkin told members of Parliament that the Nevis Island Administration Civil Proceedings Bill clears the gap that exists in the country's legal arrangements. We take a look at this report from St. Kitts and Nevis.
The government is attempting to close the digital divide. Officials are optimistic that the handing over of the 4,800 laptops and tablets to students and public officers will open the gateways to knowledge, improve access.
Two pieces of legislation deemed critical to the day-to-day functioning of the Nevis Island administration were passed on Thursday at National Assembly. The first bill passed, the Nevis Island Administration Civil Proceedings Bill 2023, gives the NIA the power to sue and be sued in its own name in civil matters, whereas prior civil litigation against the NIA had to be served on the Attorney General's office in the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. The second, an amendment to the Crown Proceedings Bill 2023, is, quote, an amendment to the Crown Proceedings Act to reflect the terms and provisions of the Nevis Island Administration Civil Proceedings Act, according to Attorney General Honorable Garth Wilkin, the mover of the bill. Lending his support to the Nevis Island Administration Civil Proceedings Bill 2023, Premier of Nevis Honorable Mark Brantley highlighted the importance of the legislative amendments and the impact on both the NIA and the federal government. Premier Brantley explained that as a result of the August 2022 decision by the Court of Appeal in the matter of the Ocean Reef Resorts Limited and the NIA, that the NIA had no standing to sue or be sued in civil matters. Nevis now has to come to Bastille for a fiat, which means permission from the Attorney General, in order to deal with those matters.
I'm persuaded that the court did not take into account the implications of what it was saying. And in essentially overruling decades of authority, it did not contemplate, well, what does this mean for the functioning day-to-day of the Nevis Island administration? And what does it mean for the federal government and the Attorney General? This legislation is really seeking to correct the mischief that has now been created in terms of the practical and legal implications of this judgment. And in a real way to restore us to what was prior to the, when did I say the judgment was? August 17th, 2022. It's less than a year ago. So prior to August 17, 2022, we had an established, well-known, well-respected approach to these matters. And this legislation, therefore, seeks to reset and really to put us back to what was and what had always been accepted.
Honorable Alexis Jeffers, Parliamentary Representative for Nevis 10, and Honorable Latoya Jones, Opposition Senator and Deputy Speaker, also voiced their support for the bill. Honorable Eric Evelyn, Deputy Premier of Nevis and Parliamentary Representative for Nevis 11, signalled his support during the quorum. Similarly, the members of Parliament for Nevis also indicated their support for the Crown Proceedings Amendment Bill 2023. All members present on the government benches supported both bills as well.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a break here on AM Prime, and when we return, well, we'll continue this morning's edition of the program. Stay tuned.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokaram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
Thank you for staying with us here on AM Prime. We continue now with the regional updates and we go to Antigua and Barbuda. The government is aiming to begin consultation. Now, listen to this. The government is aiming to begin consultations within the next 3 months on the way forward for judge-only trials. The announcement comes even as the Senate passed an amendment to the Criminal Proceedings Trial by Judge Alone Act of 2021. The legislation extends trials without juries in certain matters for another year. Now, I'm wondering actually if one of the recommendations coming out from the recent CARICOM symposium, of which Transbago hosted here in Port of Spain, I'm wondering if one of the recommendations to deal with the criminal justice system coming from that symposium was judge-alone trials, because this is something that TNT is also looking at very carefully. So let's take a look at this report.
Leader of Government Business in the Senate, Samantha Marshall, outlining the main amendment being made, the extension of the provision for judge-alone trials by another year. The original legislation was passed during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, when social distancing meant it was difficult to have juries in all criminal trials.
It does not happen for all cases, criminal cases. And I believe in our legislation of 2021, we did highlight primarily those cases of which there would be trial by judge alone, and also given the option to the accused as to whether or not he would wish to have a trial by judge alone or trial by jury.
Consultations will be held during this additional year with various stakeholders to determine the way forward. Senator Marshall says the overarching goal should be to improve the administration of justice.
But it does us no good if we do not move with modern times and understand how we can better serve our people. I'm not saying for the jury at all. I don't want anybody to leave here saying that. But what I am saying, there needs to be some permanent adjustment within our system to allow our criminal matters to be handled more efficiently, effectively, and in a way that the people, at the end of the day, will have confidence in the system.
Leader of Opposition Business in the Senate, Sean Nicholas, wanted to be certain that the legislation was not going to be permanent.
But the explanatory memorandum tells us that it will now become a permanent part of our criminal justice system. So I'm not sure if that was a typo. Okay, so that was our only concern. And of course, the argument laid out by the Leader of Government Business, it was a well-debated topic or piece of legislation. The time when we did it, and it doesn't bear repeating all that was said, as it's already recorded in Hansard.
Attorney General Honorable Stedroy Benjamin tells ABS News when the broad-based consultations will begin on the way forward.
We should begin within the next 3 months, I think. I'm going to, of course, have the Bar Association, other interest groups in the country. There's some pressure groups arising now, the citizens' organizations, and other stakeholders who may have interest in this particular law. It's our intention to make certain that it's widely debated, widely discussed from different groups, church groups, whatever, to get their opinion. The government is determined to pass legislation which is suitable to the society and which has the support of the majority of people in this nation.
So I suppose we'll continue to keep an eye on the development out in Antigua and Barbuda with regard to the judge-alone trials, and let's see what's taking place here, whether or not that debate has ended, or whether there is indeed more to come. I wonder if we'll have public consultation on that as well. Anyway, moving across to Grenada. Grenada is poised to receive over $100 million from Saudi Arabia for its climate-smart infrastructure project. This report from GBN.
Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell said an agreement will soon be finalized between Grenada and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. On Thursday, the Prime Minister welcomed a delegation from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia led by His Excellency Ahmed Al-Khatib, Chairman of the Board of Directors and Minister of Tourism. Discussions were centered around the provision of support for the Saudi Fund for Development of Grenada through the Climate Smart Infrastructure Program, which seeks to address Grenada's susceptibility to extreme weather conditions and the associated challenges of flooding and infrastructure vulnerabilities, particularly along our coastlines.
I think it's just a question of finalizing the paperwork. Ideally for us, we would want it to be $100 million in grant funding. That may not be the case. It might be a combination of grant and loan, but obviously we would be pushing as much as possible to make it grant funding. But if it's not totally grant, you still need the funding, and obviously we would look for very, very concessional loan terms. So that's really the part of it that I think we will be finalizing on the next visit by the delegation. So ideally we expect in the not too distant future that we can have a formal announcement that the agreement has been concluded, and we can begin to have the discussions with the public about what the projects entail, so that we can get the consultation, the buy-in, etc. from the public on it.
Prime Minister Mitchell outlines some of the projects that will benefit from the Saudi Fund for Development.
The project has a number of components, some of which include the resuscitation of the Carnage and the saving of it. As you're aware, it's susceptible to sea level rise. The saving of Grandlands Beach, and when I say saving of Grandlands Beach, the beach needs to be saved. We have projections that show that by 2050 there may no longer be a Grandlands Beach. So obviously that's our pride and gem, and we have to take measures to ensure that we can have it around for many, many more decades to come. Grenville as well suffers significantly from flooding, so we also have to take measures to address that.
Other components of the project include capacity building.
We expect another visit by another delegation to do the technical work, particularly with the Ministry of Finance on this issue. Prior to his visit, there was a technical team that came in April and did extensive work as well with the Ministry of Climate Resilience, the Ministry of Finance. So the visit was really to concretize that part. And secondly, as you're aware, Saudi Arabia is bidding to host Expo 2030 in Riyadh. And obviously part of the visit was to seek the confirmation of Grenada's support, as well as OECS and CARICOM member states' support. Grenada has indicated our desire and willingness to support Saudi Arabia in its bid, and so the discussions were also about that issue.
The government said it is dedicated to further fortifying the relationship between both countries, seeking opportunities for collaboration and working together to achieve mutual goals. Christina John, GBN News.
Well, after 4 days off, we have to share with you these regional updates to keep you up to date to what's happening across the Caribbean. And we have Dominica next, as we are at the start of the Atlantic hurricane season. Caribbean countries are preparing. Dominica, one of the hardest hit by natural disasters in recent times, says they've rebuilt with resilience at the center. This report coming from Dominica.
The Caribbean island of Dominica is no stranger to natural disasters, with a Category 5 hurricane destroying over 90% of its housing back in 2017. Today, the country is still recovering, but Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit says it's building back better.
With regards to resilience, we look at the infrastructure. So in terms of the construction of our bridges, we employ new engineering practices and techniques, and we believe that they're working. In our road construction, we have also employed new engineering techniques and methods. Our homes, where we have focused heavily on resilience building, because what we want to have, my friend, is that every home in Dominica, every house in Dominica can be treated as a hurricane shelter.
Prime Minister Skerrit says the implementation of stronger building codes was needed and is urging other Caribbean islands to build with resilience in mind.
I think Dominica can be used as a case study. I think Caribbean countries need to study what happened in Dominica and what has been our response. Because the reality is, every one of our countries in the Caribbean is at risk and is vulnerable to natural disasters. And it doesn't have to take a Category 5 hurricane. It could take a Category 1 hurricane, Category 2, Category 3.
Within its building codes, Dominica has stipulated the use of heavier galvanized and hurricane straps.
We are in a much better position now than we were in 2017. And I believe, by the grace of God, that if God forbid we were to be visited by a hurricane, Dominica will be in a much better place to withstand the impact of a hurricane on us.
The Atlantic hurricane season begins in a few days. Crystal Hoyt, CBC News.
Our final regional update this morning comes from St. Lucia. 4,800 devices were handed over for distribution to students and public servants at a special ceremony at the Financial Administrative Center in St. Lucia. The idea is, in the case of students, the government says it is to ensure that there are no setbacks for a lack of electronic devices. In the case of public servants, it is to ensure that they have the necessary devices in order to be productive. The donation was made possible through the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. This report from St. Lucia.
The government is attempting to close the digital divide. Officials are optimistic that the handing over of the 4,800 laptops and tablets to students and public officers will open the gateways to knowledge, improve access to online resources, and develop digital skills for future careers. The contribution of electronic devices was made possible via the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project.
While these laptops and tablets may seem like a small gesture, they represent a much larger vision of progress and change as we inch towards empowering our citizens and building a brighter future for all. In this digital age, access to technological tools like laptops and tablets cannot be reserved for a select few. It is now a necessity for all. Some of our fellow citizens face barriers of access that have prevented them from fully participating in the digital revolution. It is our responsibility as a government and as a progressive society to ensure that every single citizen is connected.
The COVID-19 pandemic thrust countries into making greater use of online platforms for business, work, and education.
This occasion signifies another stage in fulfilling a campaign promise of the government of St. Lucia to provide one laptop per child in our school system. The government recognizes that a digital tool is an imperative for 21st century educational instruction, and it is critical that we ensure that our young generation can learn and compete efficiently and comfortably on the world stage.
Lack of electronic devices among government workers also hampered the country's move to the digital platform.
The presentation of these high-end laptops today
will serve to increase the resilience in our service delivery to our varied clients in the face of any future man-made or natural disasters. Remote working and alternative working arrangements have become a necessity to improve and increase workplace productivity, and the use of ICT is integral in ensuring business continuity plans are achievable. The Department of Finance has also made a conscious effort in our procurement procedures to acquire more mobile devices to our staff as we strive to improve the resilience in our service delivery.
Public Service Minister Dr. Virginia Albert Poyet revealed that the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project will also contribute to smart classrooms.
Whilst the provision of tablets and laptops is a great milestone, digitizing our great country does not stop here. The Caribbean Digital Transformation Project will, in this financial year, procure a mobile data center for key government agencies valued at $320,000, an e-land registry system to the tune of $2 million, an innovation lab for Sir Arthur Lewis Community College to the tune of $450,000, 20 smart classrooms for primary schools island-wide, valued at $330,000.
The 4,000 electronic devices includes 2,210 tablets to grade 6 students, 2,200 laptops to Form 1 students, and 450 laptops to public officers. Among the public service departments are the Inland Revenue, Finance and Customs departments, the Post Office, and Treasury. Gina Filippi, HTS News Force.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a break here on AM Prime. When we return, we'll conclude this morning's proceedings. Stay tuned.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best for your baby is at dbesttoys.com. We have the best strollers, car seats, walkers, feeding accessories, playpens, cribs, clothing, and the widest range of brand name toys like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Nerf, LOL, Fisher-Price, Cocomelon, Intex Pools, Amazon Fire tablets, HP and Gateway laptops, and the best bikes, scooters, skateboards, and ride-on. Visit us in-store at Southern Main Road, McBean, or shop online now at dbesttoys.com. That's dbesttoys.com. We have the best toys at the best prices.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc? Every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me this morning. I know that we had many regional updates. Unfortunately, our last guest, he was not able to make it. Thankfully, we have those regional updates to share with you, just to give you an idea what's going on across the Caribbean. But we do hope our final guest is all well for the morning. But for now, thank you very much. I hope you had a great weekend. Hope you had a great Indian Arrival Day holiday. And whatever you do ahead, today's the final day of May. May it be a productive one, may it be a good one as we enter another chapter in the month of June. Hope for only positive things. One can only hope. But in doing so, we have to make it positive. May we always be the rational ones, the mature ones, respectful, empathetic, caring, and understanding, because we can make friends a bit sweeter. And in doing that, we have to do our part. We have to try. But anyway, I don't have to preach to you. You're an adult, and you know what you have to do. Anyway, I'm Keaton Shaw. This has been AM Prime. Stay tuned to Talking Points at 8 o'clock, where I'm joined by my co-host, Sean Michael Small, for a review of what's taking place here in TNT from the eyes of current affairs. But for now, bye-bye.
WESN